Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making these super awesome perfect granny squares. So what is different about these granny squares is you can't see that chain up going along one side that some patterns have. I also don't have to slip stitch across to get where I want to be. It's just a nice join in the corner and you can just keep going without having your join showing, which I really like. So you can make these any size you want at all. These, for my particular pattern, I'm going to be making 5 rows, but if you want to make it smaller, you're more than welcome, and if you want to make it bigger, you can just keep going. What you're going to need for this project, or what I'm using, you of course can use any yarn. I am using this Cakes Baby Fine. It is 100% premium acrylic, 100 grams, 360 meters. It's a size 2 for thickness. Oh, I also wanted to tell you what I like about these Cakes Baby Fine. They're $1.99 online. There's 3 in a pack, so it's $6 for a pack of 3 cakes. And if you have 1 cake, you can make all your granny squares from 1 cake and have all the different colors inside. And there's a little bit of color change going on in and around. So it's a nice, easy, quick way of making a bunch of different colored granny squares from 1 cake. Of course, you can use any cake at all. This is just a yarn that I'm in love with right now, my current crush. And I am using a 5mm hook. You can just use whatever yarn you want and whatever hook goes with your yarn. Granny squares can be made with any yarn at all, so it doesn't matter. And if you're beginning, you might want to grab yourself a stitch marker or a paper clip or a bobby pin or even just a scrap of yarn just to kind of point out where you're going to be joining and stepping up. And of course later you'll need a darning needle for sewing in your end. So let's get started. So we're just going to start by making a slip knot, and we're not going to be sewing in our tail. We're just going to be working over it and snipping it off. So we just need about 1.5 or 2 inches for your tail. So make a slip knot any which way you normally do. Shrink it down and put it on your hook. If you hear snoring, yes, that is my bulldog. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to be showing you the basic stitches. I'm sure if you're already making a granny square, you know your chains and your double crochets. But there's also tutorials on my channel if you want a refresher or you are actually just starting out. So put your hook straight into the very first chain. You don't count what's on your hook and you don't count this little knot. You just count, I just count one side, so I'm going to count this 1 loop, 2 loops, and 3 loops. I'm going to put my hook right into that very first chain right on top of the knot. It doesn't matter if you have 1 loop on your hook or 2 loops. You're just going to get your hook in and slide it down like this. You want to keep your tail. You kind of pull it to make a U shape. And I'm also holding my yarn. I don't want this loop to be really huge, but I want to keep track of that space in the center. That's going to be the center of my granny square. So I'm holding it open with my thumb and my finger. Grab your yarn and bring it through both loops. So that's a slip stitch to join, just like that. I'm still holding open that center, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Wrap your yarn and go right into where you're holding it open. So push your hook right onto your finger and make 1 double crochet. So bring your yarn back, wrap your yarn and take off 2, wrap your yarn and take off 2. Our chain counts as a double crochet in this pattern, so that counts as 2 double crochets. And we can kind of let go now because that double crochet is holding the center open. And we want to be holding our tail along our ring. We want to be working all over it at the same time we're doing our stitches. So I just kind of hold it along with my work and kind of pinch it down, and 1 more double crochet. Just like that. So there's 3 double crochets. Chain 2 for your corners. 1 and 2. Wrap your yarn and 3 more double crochets into that same center. So 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. Chain 2, 1 and 2, wrap your yarn, make sure you're going over your tail, into the center, 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So there's 3 sides of our granny square so far. Chain 2 for your corner. Wrap your yarn. If you've run out of stitches, if you can't really see your ring, it's all shoved full already, just kind of pinch your ring and slide those double crochets back. You can find a lot more space on that ring if it's getting full. So wrap your yarn and 3 more double crochets into that ring. 1, 2, and 3. So there's our 4 sides. Now we're going to join. So instead of doing a chain 2, I'm going to do a chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet to join. So that's going to leave me in the middle of my corner. So we're just going to count again. We want to be at the top of the chain 3. So basically, our very first stitch is way down here at the bottom. So there's 1 tiny, tiny guy, 2, and 3. Another way of doing it is just lining up, like following your double crochet up, and there is the top of your stitch. The next one, follow your double crochet up, that's the top of your stitch. And now we're going to want to go in to the next stitch over, this chain right here. So that is the top of our chain 3, right here. So now we're going to want to make sure we get 2 loops, 2 strands of that stitch on your hook. So I just kind of hold it with my finger onto the hook and push those stitches on, push those loops on. So there's 2 loops on top of my hook. Grab your yarn and bring it back. And now instead of doing a slip stitch, we're going to do a single crochet. So 2 loops on your hook, wrap your yarn and take off 2. So now if you look, we're kind of in the center of our corner. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now you have 2 options of doing this depending on what you're going to be using your squares for, or if you're changing colors. If you're changing colors, you're going to want to turn your work and work straight into the back side. You're going to want to turn your work every row, and that is going to keep your granny square super true and super square instead of kind of, like a deck of cards and you kind of spin it. You don't want your granny square to be doing that. If you're not changing colors, it doesn't matter. You can keep it on the one side. You don't have to turn your work. But if you're changing colors, turn your work. I'm not changing colors, so I'm not going to turn my work. Wrap your yarn and into this corner space, 2 double crochets. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, so that's 2, and here is 3. Like that. Now wrap your yarn and into the next corner space, we're going to make a corner. So corners always get corners, and corners are always 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So into the next corner space, and I'm not chaining, I'm just jumping straight over. So wrap your yarn and make a corner. So 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1, 2, and 3 double crochets into the same corner. So we're going to just finish off that corner and start our next side. There we go. And you might also want to be using your stitch marker. This is handy if you are just starting out and you don't know, or if you're coming around, you can easily just keep crocheting all along that side and lose your corner. So we don't want to lose our corner. I'm just going to put this stitch marker straight into that corner space right where I did my chain 3. And you can do that right after you've done the shell. You don't have to wait till you get around, but that is where we want to slow down. It's just telling us to pay attention and finish our corner. So now we're going to keep going, just jumping straight across to the next corner and making a corner. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. There's our chain 2 and 3 more double crochets. Just like that. Now you're going to jump across straight to the next corner and do 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets, and I'll meet you when that's done. So now we're going to go and right where our stitch marker is, we're going to finish off this corner and do our join. So you can remove your stitch marker if you want, just to get it out of the way. Wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets into that corner space. So now we're doing the first part of our corner. 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to do our join. So our join is always chain 1 and single crochet to join. So we can count our chains. There's 1 down here, so 1, 2, this V here, and 3. Or of course you can go up your posts and into the next chain over, whatever is easier for you to see. And you want to make sure you get 2 strands of that stitch on the top of your hook. So 1 underneath, 2 on top. That gives a nice strong join. So push your hook in. 2 strands of that stitch are on the top of your hook. Bring your yarn back, 2 loops on your hook, and bring your yarn through. So single crochet to join. Now we're going to do the exact same thing as we did down below. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and keep an eye or keep your finger where your corner is. So make sure you have 3 double crochets on one side and 3 on the other. Sometimes with this join, it can look like your corner's here, and then you have 4 double crochets on one side and 2 on the other. So just make sure you push that chain where it belongs, and 2 double crochets right into the center of that corner space. There is 1 and 2. So there's the beginning of our next row, and we can just pop our stitch marker straight into that corner space to remind ourselves that that is where we're going to be finishing and joining up. Wrap your yarn, and now we have side spaces popping up. This is not a corner, it's just a space along the side. So we're just going to do 3 double crochets in there. So 3 double crochets into that center space. 2 and 3. And corner gets a corner. So 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets. You can just pause the video and get caught up. Don't think you have to be doing it as fast as I am. Just press pause and then press play again. So there's our corner finished. Side, 3 double crochets into that side spot, that space along the side. 1, 2, 3. And into the corner, corners get a corner. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. The side, 3 double crochets, corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So get caught up on this side, corner, and I'll meet you back. So that's what it looks like so far. We've done our corners and we're just along our last side here. So 3 double crochets into the space along the side. 1, 2, 3. And our stitch marker is telling us to finish our corner. So we can take out our stitch marker now and jump straight in and make 3 double crochets into that corner space where we started this round. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and single crochet to the top of the chain 3. So there's our double crochet, chain right there. Or you can count your V's going up. 1, 2, and 3. Make sure you get 2 strands of that stitch on your hook. So push your hook in, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off 2. So there's your single crochet to join, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. So remember, if you're changing colors, you're going to turn your work. That's just going to keep your squares super centered and super square-like. If you're not changing your color, you can just keep working on the same side. Wrap your yarn, 2 double crochets into the same first corner space. That counts, your chain 3 counts as your first double crochet of that corner. So stitch marker into that same corner spot to tell us to finish our corner and join when we get there. And now we keep going along the sides. We're going to be doing the same thing as we did in the row below, except now there's 2 spots along the side. So that's how your granny square is going to grow. Every row is going to have more spaces along the side. So wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets into the first space. 2 and 3. And skip straight over 3 double crochets into the next space. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do our corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets, just like that. And now keep doing the same thing. Each space along the side, 3 double crochets, corners, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, sides, 3 double crochets into each space. I don't do any chaining in between. The only chain is the chain 2 in the center of our corners. So keep going along this row and I'll meet you when you get back to your stitch marker. Back at your stitch marker, you can remove it now. We've reached it. We've arrived. Now into that corner spot, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And our join, which is a chain 1 and single crochet. So chain 1, and we're going to single crochet to the top of the chain 3, 2 loops of that stitch on our hook. You can also kind of check if you pull on it, it should make it look like a nice stitch. It should kind of behave like a double crochet. So that's how you know you're in the right spot. So push your hook in, 2 strands of that stitch on your hook, and single crochet to join. This is a 4 round granny. I want to do 5 rows for my, or 5 rounds for my granny squares. So how you can count your rows is you can start in the very center and just count your way out. So here's 1 round, so 1, 2, 3, and here's 4. So this is a 4 round granny square. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I want to do 1 more row or 1 more round. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're just going to do the exact same thing as we did in the row below. So 2 double crochets into that starting corner, just like that. We can pop in our stitch marker if we're not going to know when we are ready to join. Jump straight over, and now this side there are 3 spots on the side. So 3 places are going to just be getting your regular 3 double crochets, and then our corners are 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So just start 3 double crochets into that first space along the side, 2, 3. Next one, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Next one, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. So there's our side. Now we're going to keep going. So corners, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and each spot along the side, 1, 2, 3. Each of these spots is getting 3 double crochets. Corners are always 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets, and side spots are always 3 double crochets with no chaining in between. So keep going all the way around, and I'll meet you when you get to your stitch marker. So we're back around to where we joined, and we can just make sure we have 5 rounds. So we can start right here at the center and just count these little chiclets going up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I find if you count on an angle going up, it's a little easier, for me anyway, than going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. just because it's kind of, for me, it's more of a row. So I just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 5-row or 5-round granny. So the trick to doing granny squares is to make your squares the same number of rows, and preferably with a similar weight yarn and the same hook size, so that your squares will generally be close to the same size and have the same number of spaces, because that's how we'll be joining them up into whatever project you're going to be using these granny squares for. So now I can take out that stitch marker. And because we're going to be joining these with another row of crochet, I'm not really worried about doing an invisible join or anything fancy like that. It's going to get covered up with another round of crochet. So into that corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to do our regular chain 2 like we do in our other corners. So 1 and 2, and slip stitch to join. So this is super easy. We just go up to the top of the chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. We still want 2 loops of that stitch on our hook. So go straight in, bring your yarn back, turn your hook and bring it through. Now chain 1, that kind of makes a knot and secures your work. Cut your yarn, leaving like a 3 or 4 inch tail, enough to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. And there is your first perfect little granny square. You can't really see where you've joined. Super nice and easy. Remember, you would have been turning your work each round if you were changing colors or using more than one color per granny square. You want to change direction just to keep it nice and flat. Now our tail that we worked around, we can just snip that off. And that's as easy as it is. So can't wait to see yours. You can post them to our Facebook group, the Secret Yarnery Crochet Community. What you're going to be making with them, I cannot wait to see all of the gorgeous granny squares that will be coming out of these cakes. So soft, so dreamy. Really, really like it. If you're on Facebook, you can post them in our group. It's called the Secret Yarnery Crochet Community. Love to see how yours turned out. And thanks so much for hanging out. We'll see you in the next video, and stay hooked.